All right, that's my cue, guys. Can everyone hear me all right? I'm guessing they can. Thanks for joining us here on this Saturday for this preview event. My name is Frederick Carlson. I know some of you guys put in your chat where you guys are from. I'm originally from, maybe you guys can tell, I'm from not here. My name's a little bit unusual, at least the spelling. I'm originally from Sweden, but I've lived here in Texas for most of my life. I grew up in El Paso, out in West Texas. I've been working here at UNT for about 2.5 years now. And amongst my other duties here, one of them is advising for B.A.A.S, which I think is a major that, first of all, the name doesn't give it enough credit for what it is. So B.A.A.S, it stands for Bachelors of Applied Arts and Sciences, which if you think that sounds a little bit generic, I don't blame you, but I'm here to tell you about what exactly it is and show you that it's not very generic after all. So let's see here. Okay. So I think the best way to sort of start describing the B.A.A.S major is to talk about who it's best for. And when it comes to who it's best for, it really comes down to two key words, those being transfer credit. So transfer credit, transfer credit, transfer credit. Don't forget those words. If you have a lot of transfer credits, then this might very well be a very good major for you to look into. Even if you don't have transfer credits, you might be here for more like Rachel's part of the presentation, which is the PDA program, but just bear with us. This will go pretty quick, probably about 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll get on to the other part of it. So who are students who normally bring in transfer credits? Of course, one very common way to do that is through community. I'm sure some of you guys are students at a community college right now, perhaps in the area. We get tons of students from Collin Community College, Tarrant. There's tons around here. So you might be going to one of those right now. You're already working on getting credits. Now, specifically, if you're getting an Associates of Applied Arts and Sciences, you might be able to tell there that's very similar to the name of our major, which is the Bachelors of Applied Arts and Sciences. So you're likely getting a lot of credits that would be very easily applied to this program. Now, you guys might also perhaps be a veteran student. So you guys might be bringing in what we call JST or DD214 credits. We are actually the only major at UNT that accepts those particular credits. So definitely, if you are a veteran student that has those credits, we're perhaps the best major for you as far as transferring those in. Now, if any of you guys are international students, you guys might have actually, finished an entire degree abroad or have a significant amount of credits from abroad. Again, we are a major designed for transfer credits, very transfer credit friendly. So even if you're bringing in somewhat obscure credits from a different country, we can typically work with those. Really, the key thing with any transfer credit is that you're getting them from an accredited university or college. That's kind of the key rule. And that applies also for international credit. So as long as your school is accredited in your country, then you should be able to use those credits. Also, returning non-traditional students, that's very common. That we see those a lot. And there's tons of different students that can fall under that description. Really, as long as you're not just kind of like a standard freshman, fresh out of high school, you're kind of what we would call like a non-traditional student. And so you're also likely at that point, maybe, you started at a university a couple of years ago, you didn't finish, or you are just coming in a little bit later, but you've done some workforce credits, or perhaps you've gone to community college a little bit, you're bringing in some credits, then you also could potentially be a very good fit for this program. And finally, if you want to do your degree fully online, we have that option as well. So you can do the B.A.A.S major through a platform that's fully online called Coursera. You guys might have heard about Coursera before. They do all kinds of, like higher learning, stuff like that, just courses in general that you guys might be interested in. So we use that as a platform. So if you guys want to sit, on your couch like I'm doing right now, giving this presentation, and do your entire bachelor's degree from home, then this would also potentially be a good option for you. So now kind of getting into a little bit of what this degree actually is, what it looks like, and I'm going to go into much more detail as far as what you're able to study in a little bit. But here is the actual structure of the major. So total of 120 degree hours. That's standard across most majors at UNT. state core, 42 hours. So actually a little bit more than a third of your credits are going to come from the state core. It's called the state core because the state of Texas is the one that mandates that you do it. So I know it looks a little bit like high school 2.0 there. You're taking things like creative arts and, you know, US history all over again. And if that's a little bit annoying, I kind of sympathize with you, but it does make for really well-rounded students. And at the end of the day, at least you'll be really, you know, you'll be good at answering random questions. You know, you might improve your Jeopardy game or something like that with those state core credits. But really what we're going to talk about mostly here is the major. So that's where we get unique here with this B.A.A.S major. We have 4 parts that it's really split into, and those being the occupational specialization, the concentration areas, and then the unifying courses and the electives. So just kind of a very brief description of what those are. The occupational specialization, that's something that we oftentimes see filled up with transfer credits, but that's you bringing in, you know, workforce credits from before, or perhaps just transfer credits that we can fill in there with up to 24 hours. Now, I would say kind of the main part of this major is those 36 hours that you get from concentration areas. And you'll notice that that's plural. That's because there's 3 of them. So 3 that are 12 hours each, equaling 36 hours. And those ones are very customizable. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that in a second. These unifying courses, these ones are labeled as B.A.A.S courses. So they're kind of specific to B.A.A.S majors. And those classes are designed to give you like a good foundation for the workforce in the 21st century. They're good at sort of standardizing what it is that we want a B.A.A.S major to learn and be prepared for when it comes to going out there and getting a job, because ultimately we know that that is the goal. This is a very flexible major. And we even have like a little bit of flexibility on top of that flexibility here. You see with those 12 elective hours. So you have freedom with those credits. You can maybe take some classes that don't necessarily fit in exactly with, you know, those concentrations that you'll end up picking, but those can be some nice little extra classes that you can take. Now I'm going to jump out of this presentation very briefly because I want to show you guys our degree planning sheet. So hopefully you guys can all see this right here. This is what we actually use when we're advising a prospective student for B.A.A.S. So pretty much everything I was describing there in that PowerPoint slide is actually here on this Word document. Now what we do when we meet with a prospective student, and you know, like I said, you're probably going to be bringing in transfer credits. So we go through this list and we X off what it is that you've brought in. So let's say, for example, you're bringing in 60 credit hours. And let's say you got some of those from community college. Maybe you have some workforce credits as well. So what I would do when I'm advising you is I would go and, you know, check these off. I'd be like, okay, you got your English, you got your mathematics. Each one of these, by the way, is 3 credit hours. So if you can kind of visualize this, this is the 120 here. So let's say you got those ones, you know, let's say you got 5 more here like this. I'm just kind of filling in some random ones here. So that's 10 classes right there. That's 30 credit hours. Now then what I'd probably do is I'd probably go down here and I would fill up these as well. So I'd fill up all these. I'm going to save a little bit of time. I won't X them all out, but you kind of get what I'm doing here. And then I'd probably fill in these electives as well. So kind of the idea that I want you guys to get here is that you guys can get a really big chunk of the major finished before you guys even start at UNT. And in fact, we only have a minimum of at least 30 credit hours that you have to get with us. So potentially you might be looking at as little as maybe 2 or 3 semesters to finish a degree if you do B.A.A.S. So definitely a good option if you honestly are one of those students who's just kind of like, I just want to get this done as quick as possible. Now here you see these professional development concentrations, and I'm going to show you guys just in 1 second what those would be filled with. You guys might also be questioning here, what are these 3 XXX, 4 XXX, what's going on there? So what those actually represent is upper level credits. So we call anything that's a junior or senior level, so kind of like level 3 and 4. We call those upper level credits, and you need to get at least 36 of them. You can transfer in up to 12, but in total to graduate, you need 36. So you see here, like I mentioned, each one of these little squares is worth 3 hours. And you'll see that there are 12 of these that have 3xxx, 4xxx. So those are the amount of advanced credit hours you need. Now we can spread these out a little bit amongst these different squares here, these different classes. They don't have to be, exclusively here for the professional concentrations, for example. Now, one example of an advanced class, actually these ones right here, right? So B.A.A.S 3020, B.A.A.S 4100, those are examples of what an advanced class would look like. All right, so let me jump back here to, don't save, all right, to the presentation. So I have not figured out a way how to jump back to the page I was on. If somebody wants to tell me how, you feel free to do that in the chat, but here we are again. So what makes the B.A.A.S program unique? There's a couple of things, and I think sort of what it comes down to is that we want to make sure that it's a degree for you guys that prepares you well for getting a good job in the future. So what we do to ensure that is that we partner with employers around the community, around DFW. We partner with the community colleges as well to develop curriculum that will shape you and shape your knowledge towards being a good fit for, getting a good job in the future. Like I mentioned before, that's really kind of why we're here. Of course, being at university, being in college can be a really fun experience, but ultimately the end goal, getting the job. So that's a lot of what we're focused on. There's a thing called focus areas, which I will tell you guys about in a second, but they're designed by many different UNT departments. And you can really study subjects from any major here, just about any major, with very few exceptions in this degree. And so there's a lot of different UNT departments that are collaborating and creating what we call focus areas. And again, I'll tell you what those are in just a second. The concentrations are tailored to the students. So one example of that is I was actually advising a student 2 days ago. He is actually a UNT student at the moment. I think he's studying business. So he's gotten some business credits taken care of, but he decided that he wanted to be a pilot. So he's actually going to go to Tarrant Community College to get like his pilot license, whatever it's called. I honestly don't know exactly what it's called. I can't remember, but that's a 60 credit hour course that he's taking at community college. But since the airlines, they want a bachelor's degree for pilots. Don't ask me why, but for me, you just have to be able to fly the plane, but apparently you need to get a bachelor's degree as well. So he needs a bachelor's degree. He knows he's going to be coming in with tons of credits from doing those courses at community college. So he knows that this is a quick way for him to be able to finish and also take some specific classes for aviation logistics, which is actually one of our focus areas that I'll show you in a second. Okay, so what can you study? Here I'm actually going to jump out of the presentation one more time. I promise it's the last time. And I want to show you guys this right here. So this is what we call our suggested concentrations form. And this is, again, something that I go over when I advise students for B.A.A.S. And so here are what we called the concentration areas, those 12-hour concentration areas you see here, 12 hours each. These are just some examples. And you see here, we have a pretty big list. It's almost too big, if you ask me. So here's an example, management, right? So management kind of encompasses a lot of different subjects. So you would be kind of picking and choosing from a couple of different subjects like business management, hospitality management. Maybe you're into, doing something like social services. And, social services encompasses a lot of different subject areas. So we've got social work, rehabilitation studies, sociology, human development, and family systems, for example. So again, this is a pretty big list. If you guys want to, I could maybe email this to you guys, or if you guys end up coming to Perspective Advising, I'll definitely show it to you and go through it with you. But you see there's tons of different things you guys can study. So very flexible major. Now, if I go here to the 4th page, we get into something called focus areas. So 24-hour focus areas. Now what these do is they replace 2 out of your 3 concentrations. So that's why it's 24, it's 2 times 12. It replaces them and it gives you kind of a more focused track here. And these ones are a little bit more limited. There's not quite as many. And unlike the concentrations that I showed you up there on the previous pages, those ones are flexible. Those ones can pretty much be customized. These ones are set. So for example, if you wanted to do the aviation operations focus area, like that, the future pilot that I described earlier, he's probably going to be doing this. And so these are specifically the classes that he would take in that case. So those are 24-hour focus areas. Now, one kind of cool thing about these is that, as you see, if you do one of these 24-hour focus areas, you will have that kind of as a title on your degree once you finish. So if you don't do any focus areas, what you get is a Bachelor's of Applied Arts and Sciences. And you're gonna have tons of good things to say about what you studied to your future when you're doing an interview. But if you do one of these 24-hour focus areas, you get that title. So for example, if you did the aviation operations, you would then have a Bachelor's of Applied Arts and Sciences with a focus area in aviation operations or in applied commerce, computational linguistics, whatever it might be. All right, back to the presentation again. And again, I gotta skip through this. Luckily, I don't have that many slides. Okay, let me see if I missed anything here. I don't think I did. So pretty much this is what I wanted to describe over there on that PDF file. But let's go here now to our contact information. So we are officially located at Sage Hall on main campus, but we are definitely very Frisco friendly if you're a Frisco student. We have our website right there if you guys want to copy that down or take a picture or something. And if you guys want to call that number one day, you guys can set up a prospective student appointment by calling, or you guys can also go to, well, you can also email us and set something up, or you guys can also go to appointment manager. So appointments.unt.edu. You really set up appointments for anything, at least for now at UNT. And so that's where you guys would go. You guys can find us. You guys can find my name specifically there if you want me to advise you. And you know, we got plenty of appointment slots, so we're ready to see you guys whenever is convenient for you. And I think that wraps it up for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Frederick. If you could now continue to share your screen and just click to the next slide, we're going to have Rachel tell us a little bit more about project design and analysis.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I am excited to share with you one of the newer degree programs at UNT Frisco. And if you just joined us earlier, we were talking in the chat about where people are from. So I want to just take a moment to explain why the project design and analysis is at UNT Frisco in case you're not from this area. If you're not from DFW, Frisco is a suburb or one of the many towns connected to Dallas-Fort Worth. And in Frisco itself, we have many corporate headquarters, and we're also close to many other cities and community partners. So some of those corporate headquarters you might be familiar with, such as Toyota, Smoothie King. So this is a great place for this particular degree. And once I start explaining it to you, you're going to see why in just a moment. So project design and analysis, what does that mean? Well, it means that you're going to be focusing on lots of different real-world problems. Those could be related to business or corporate entities, or those could even be related to solutions and problems that cities and governments are trying to figure out how to solve to better serve their customers or their citizens. So I'm going to stop saying project design and analysis because that's a very long name. And if you were here for our B.A.A.S program, you know at UNT, we love acronyms. So I'm probably going to refer to this degree program moving forward as PDA. So if you ever hear PDA program, we're talking about project design and analysis. This is a really unique program in that you are going to complete your degree in a 3-year time frame. So it's very accelerated. You're going to be taking a full course load. every semester as well, and that helps you progress throughout your degree plan in that 3-year time frame. This is also a unique degree because you are going to be in what we call a cohort program. And a cohort means that you are with the same classmates in the majority of your courses throughout your 3 years. These are small groups, so typically a cohort is going to consist of anywhere between 25 to 40 students at the max. So you're really going to have an opportunity to get to know your classmates because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them in the next 3 years working on different projects and working through different projects to create solutions that apply to some of the coursework that you're using and some of the partners that we're working with. So when we talk about project design and analysis, we're really focusing on 3 components. How do we manage projects? So how do you learn how to manage projects in different industries, whatever career field you might be interested in? There are always things that are trying to be solved or made better and improved. And then how do you design that? So what is it going to look like? What does it look like now? And how might we change that design in the future? Whether it's looking at what type of staff we have, what does the form look like when you submit something, or how do you order online? So lots of different design components can be involved in that piece. And then how do we analyze what we're doing? So how do we analyze the solutions that we're coming up with? Or how do we analyze data? So we know that everybody, when they click on a product, what happens when you click on a product on Facebook or anywhere else on the internet, you see it 5 other places, right? So what can we look at from that data to know how often someone actually makes a sale or makes a purchase, right? So looking at lots of data to maybe design our solutions or design our forms, different pieces. So this can really be tied to many industries, whether it's finance, whether it's commerce, travel, and like I said as well, city and local governments and federal government to kind of see what type of processes are in place and how do we actually serve our customer or our citizens in a better way. So with this program, it is a 3-year program, but you can also focus on some different minors. So similar to the B.A.A.S program, you will be taking your core courses with that cohort, so with the same group of students, but then you can pull out into a minor to utilize what you're learning in those core courses and maybe expand upon some of your areas of interest. So for example, some of the current students that we have now are focusing on some data analytics minors. We have some people interested in marketing, management. So you have an opportunity to build a little bit within this course, similar to the B.A.A.S course that Frederick shared, some very specific areas and focus areas that you might be interested in. This program will also help you be able to apply for or be a part of some certificate programs that we have at UNT Frisco and at UNT. And then with almost all degrees, of course, you can be a member of the Honors College as well. So I talked earlier about this idea of working on a project. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but I want to talk about in Frisco and with the 2 cohorts that we have now, so with the 2 groups that we already have within the degree program, they're focusing on a project each semester. And these are some of the people that they are working on their project with. So it could be the city of Frisco, AmerisourceBergen, like I mentioned earlier, Toyota, it's just down the street from us. And they have an opportunity to not only work on problems or real world problems and find solutions for these companies or government entities, but they also get to meet many of the people that work in these industries, get to be mentored by them, hear feedback, hear about their career path, and get an opportunity to perhaps in the future be involved with an internship opportunity with some of these companies and industries. So I really want to give you an example of how this degree program works in particular and why we're using the cohort model and why you will stay with some of the same students and take some of the same classes together. So what you will do is you will, in the coursework that you're taking, you're going to start learning some of the tools and things that you need to know in order to be able to start analyzing a problem, redesigning it, and thinking about solutions to address it. So for example, our first cohort last academic year worked with the city of Frisco. And in working with the city of Frisco, they focused on 2 different problems through the fall and the spring semester. In the fall, the city of Frisco wanted to look at how do we help relieve some traffic congestion in specific parts of the city, around the mall, around the minor league baseball field for the team that they have here in Frisco. What would that look like? So one of the solutions that students came up with was thinking about utilizing public transportation, or they worked with a company who had some proposed driverless cars that could be used in the place of buses or even a tram system. So hopefully that would be cheaper. That was their solution that they came up with. And in providing this solution, they didn't just say, we've got this great idea, here's the solution. They did a lot of work to analyze what is the cost of this solution, what could be the negative pieces of this solution, how many people in Frisco are actually open to using public transportation or want a public transportation option. So you can see that with this problem, some of the things that they learned in class, how to analyze data, how to run reports, how to work together in teams, can be applied to this problem. And then they got an opportunity to go out and present that to different leaders within the city of Frisco. So when you think about this cohort program and the PDA, Project Design and Analysis program itself, it is allowing you to take what you learn in the classroom in that semester and apply it immediately so that you can start building upon that skill set and the things that you're learning in the classroom. In the spring, this cohort worked with the city of Frisco as well, and they looked at why does it take so long for someone who would like to open a restaurant in the city to actually get to the point of being open. So what is happening in that process of filling out forms and getting approval? And so they started to think about different solutions and look at data on how long it takes for that process to occur to provide some solutions to the city of Frisco. So like I talked about in that first slide where you saw all those different industry partners, students at the end of each semester actually present their findings and their solutions to whoever we happen to be partnering with on the projects. And then they receive feedback from those partners as well. So it's a great opportunity to not only take what you've learned in the classroom, apply it immediately, but then get some feedback just like you would if you were in the workplace as well. The great thing about receiving feedback from these industry partners and working on these projects is that you will be able to apply this once you go into your internship. I think I skipped this on another slide, but another unique piece of this particular degree program is that you will have an opportunity and your degree requirements to participate in 3 different internships. Now, why is this great? This is great because you will be able to work with different types of companies, different community partners through your internship to apply what you learn in the classroom, but also to discover what kind of work do you like to do? What kind of work do you not like to do? What do you see yourself doing in the future for your future career? Most majors are going to require you to have an internship once. So by having 3 internships, you're really getting a leg up on understanding what does the workplace look like, what kind of work do I want to do, but at the same time, you're getting that work experience if you don't have a lot of work experience that you can add to your resume upon graduation that's going to help you be a really great candidate to get into whatever field you are interested in. And this builds upon these networking and career shaping opportunities that we have either through your internship placement or by working on these different projects. So many of our cohort students have had the opportunity to go to some of those corporate headquarters that are located in Frisco, learn about the company itself, learn about how they work, what do their products do, who are their customers, and what is their ultimate goal. And that really gives you some hands-on experience to understand how vast and broad different companies and industries are and where you might see yourself placed within them or what role you might play in the future of that particular industry. So PDA, because it is a very highly intensive program and it is small, it has a little bit of a different application process than some of our other majors at UNT. So the first thing you want to do, hopefully, and maybe you're already there right now and that's why you're here joining us today, but if you haven't, you want to apply and you want to get accepted to UNT. And when you apply, if you have not already done so, within your Apply Texas application, you can actually select UNT Frisco as one of your locations. If you haven't done that and you've already submitted it and you've been accepted to UNT and you're interested in the PDA program, don't worry, we will get you routed to the right place. So once you've been accepted to UNT, you will also need to complete a supplemental application. And that application will ask you about what are your interests within the PDA program, what are you excited about, what is a global problem that you're interested in focusing on, all kinds of fun questions. And it will also ask you for a reference letter as well. Once you have completed your supplemental application, you will sit down and you will have an interview with a faculty member and maybe someone like myself, so someone from the student services side of the house, to help you learn a little bit more about the program, but also to ask you some questions about where your interests lie. So while this program is very heavily project-based, once you have completed the PDA program, you will have the skills to be in lots of different industries, maybe working for some different governmental entities or community partners. So we want to see what kind of interests do you have so that we can start to think about where the projects that we pull into the semester might align with you or what we might need to be looking for as far as internship opportunities in the future. There are some info nights for the PDA program, and one is coming up next week, and then we also have one in November. And at those info nights, you'll actually have the opportunity to talk to a faculty member, and we might even have, and we typically do have, some of our current students that are in the program there to tell you about their experience in the program, get you excited, hear about their internships, what they've done so far. I know this semester for our students that are in their second year of the cohort program, some of them are applying to internships with the FBI. So it would be really cool to hear from those students and why they're interested in that. But the info nights, you can learn a lot more than what I just had to share with you in this quick amount of time. And this is a really exciting program because of where it's located in Frisco and the opportunities to connect with different industries that you may be interested in. So it's very versatile in that way as well. And if you're not quite so business-minded, but you're more community-focused or civic engagement-focused, you can also take some of those data analytic pieces, that design, and you can apply that in that way as well. So I really am excited about both of the programs that Frederick and I shared with you today because they are very versatile and you can really shape your experience depending on where your interest lies and what your future career goals are. So we are going to move into our Q&A session with Latrice. So please let us know what questions you have. And I believe Latrice will give more instructions on dropping those questions in the chat.
Thank you so much, Frederick and Rachel, for your presentations today on the B.A.A.S program as well as PDA. So like Rachel has mentioned, the floor is now open for questions. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will ask our presenters the questions out loud so that we can all hear their responses. So again, you can make those, you can ask those questions in the chat now. To get us started, as everyone's typing away, I do have a question for both Frederick and Rachel on why should a student select UNT, or maybe even UNT at Frisco? What sets UNT apart from all of the other programs, as well as institutions?
Well, I will speak to UNT Frisco, and Frederick did a really good job. If you've been here with us the whole time, he did a really good job giving his background, and I did not do that. So I guess I'll say I have worked at UNT, so our campus in Denton, for 10 years, and it's a wonderful campus. If you're not from Denton or you've never been to Denton, it is just a really cool, fun, funky place to be. There's lots of art, there's lots of creativity, and you get a little bit of that smaller town feeling. What I like about UNT Frisco, having been and worked at the Denton campus, is that UNT Frisco is very small, and like Latrice said at the beginning of our presentation, it almost feels like a family. So because our campus is much smaller in student numbers and even in staff, if you're not a part of the cohort program and you're a part of B.A.A.S, or you join us for some other degree, you're going to start to recognize some of the faces that you see all the time. So you're going to start seeing some of the same people. And so that is really nice because it feels like a little bit more of a tighter knit community. And I really like that about UNT at Frisco itself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Frederick, if you would like to answer, please feel free to do so. And then I have a question from our audience.
Yeah, I think probably the best thing about UNT, my 2.5 years here, aside from all the great coworkers with, I think really the student body is pretty special. A really diverse, intelligent group of students that you guys will all be soon joining. And I've spoken to hundreds, if not perhaps maybe even thousands of students here. I used to work at Study Abroad for a while. So if you guys maybe have any little side questions about that, you guys can try to get in contact with me later. But I just really think that you guys will enjoy being part of the student body, being part of that experience forever, however many semesters you end up being here at UNT. I think with Frisco specifically, I really think that PDA program is really cool. The fact that you guys have those opportunities, that Frisco really cares about partnering with the community as a whole. I think that's really valuable. Myself as a student, I think probably the most valuable thing I got when I was at university was doing those things that really helped me prepare for future, for work, basically. Sometimes some students maybe forget about that kind of aspect of it. I think that really is kind of the important thing. Taking your classes, of course, is important, but really getting that sort of professional development is really a key thing.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I have a few questions here. We have one. What focus groups would you say are creative oriented, whether that be maybe a particular student group or maybe a particular major or program? Could either of you talk to the creative aspect? If you're creative, is this something that you would maybe pursue maybe in B.A.A.S or PDA or any of the other programs that may be at UNT at Frisco?
I think when it comes to creativity, I think that's something that a lot of people crave in their jobs or when they're studying. And I think I don't necessarily want to pick out a specific concentration or focus area within B.A.A.S, if that's what you're mentioning, because I really think it kind of depends on how you express your creativity. So I would encourage you kind of think about well, what kinds of subjects make you think deeper? Because when obviously kind of the standard thing that people think of with creativity is art, you know, design, stuff like that. And that's true, of course. You know, those types of concentrations or focus areas would be highly creative, but also think about, you know, maybe what is it that unlocks your own kind of personal creativity. Just, you know, think about it one day. That's what I would say. Hopefully that kind of answered it.
Yeah, Frederick, we also have a question that is posed to you. We have a student, Logan, who was informed by an academic advisor that getting 15 or completing 15 credit hours at maybe NCTC would maybe be best first because of a GPA that was lower than a 3.0 in high school. So is there any programs that you would suggest regarding this once they get accepted into UNT? So maybe the experience of going to a community college to complete some credit hours and then transferring to UNT.
Mm-hmm. I think getting credits at a community college is really never a bad idea. Honestly, like there's a lot of those core classes that I was talking about, those state core classes like history, English, mathematics. It's almost honestly a little bit dumb not to get them done at community college because they're cheaper. Now, obviously, we were talking here about Frisco, UNT Frisco, UNT in general. Obviously, we want you guys to come here. You guys should come here. But getting those classes out of the way is the smart financial decision, and then you'll have required credits here to take as well. Now, if you do want to, you know, jump straight into the university experience, of course, you guys can take those state core classes here as well. When it comes to maybe increasing GPA, the B.A.A.S program, for example, has a 2.0 GPA requirement. So if you do happen to be under that, then of course community college would be the place to sort of bring that up. And yeah, I don't know, maybe was there something I missed there, Latrice?
I don't think so, but Logan, if you wanna clarify anything, you can in the chat there. I can pose the question differently from Frederick, but I think you did a pretty good job on, you know, is it best? Would you consider, what advice would you be able to give if, you know, you were instructed by an advisor to go to maybe a community college first to work on the GPA in order to looking to transfer or be accepted to a four-year university? So I think you did a pretty good job. And again, Logan, if you need us to clarify it all, please feel free to drop it in the chat as well. Awesome. So do I have any other questions for our presenters? Yes, okay, so we have a question here. So are B.A.A.S and PDA the only program that you can complete at Frisco? Or are there opportunities to take courses for other programs? If you live in the Frisco area, as this participant does, can you complete most of your courses at the Frisco campus? And the question to that is, so the first question, are B.A.A.S and PDA the only programs that you can complete at Frisco? So the answer to that question would be no. We do have other programs available at UNT at Frisco. Being as this presentation was titled New College Today, New College, like you would see any other academic college, will have particular programs in it. For instance, the College of Science. You could major in biology, chemistry, things like that, right? So New College is a program that is specifically at UNT at Frisco, and you can major in B.A.A.S or PDA. So those are specific courses, but there are other degree programs at UNT at Frisco, and I will drop the link to check out all of those particular programs as well before we conclude today. And the second question, are there opportunities to take courses for other programs? Which the answer again is yes on that. If you live in the Frisco area, you can complete most of your courses at the Frisco campus if the program that you are looking to major in is offered on our campus. We do have this duality where there may be some courses that are offered at the Denton campus, but if you are specific in wanting to take the courses for that particular major only at UNT at Frisco, if we have that program offered on our campus, then you can take all of those courses there. Great questions. Okay, so looks like, oh, we have one more from Avery here. Do you know anything about yes, I can answer, about TSI and the entry exam requirements? Frederick, do you want to take this, or I can as well? TSI.
You can take it if you want, Latrice.
Yes, yeah, of course, of course. So the Texas Success Initiative is a entry exam to determine whether or not kind of where you are level-wise as it relates to your academic programs. We do have TSI testing available at the University of North Texas that can be set up with our testing center. Avery, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in the chat a link of where you can find that information, so you can go ahead and browse that at your leisure. So just give me a second. And while I do that, Frederick or Rachel, if you have any lasting comments to our audience members, please feel free.
I'm just going to say welcome to UNT. I hope you guys join us. And that's it. I can't think of anything else more creative. So have a nice weekend, everyone. Take care.
Yeah, I will just say if you're interested in the PDA program, let us know. I will drop here in the chat as well a link to the info night that I talked about. And so you can come to that. It's coming up this week. And so we'd love to have you to give you a little bit more information, but also let you meet some other people who are involved with the program and have an opportunity to learn about the different internship opportunities and what project design and analysis really entails. And I'll follow up with what Frederick said. Welcome to UNT. We are happy to have you. And whether you come to UNT in Frisco or you're in Denton or you touch both campuses, keep an eye out for us when we are back fully in person and we can see each other. We'd be happy to meet you in person and get to hear more about your path at UNT.
I dropped my email in the chat in case anyone has any questions that they think of later about B.A.A.S. So you guys can always email the B.A.A.S. email that I showed earlier, but if you guys want to direct the question specifically to me, then feel free to do so.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And thank you to all of our participants today in today's presentation on the new college. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to join us. If you're still sticking around with us for a preview, there is a student panel that's getting ready to get started here in just a second. So if you would like to head on over that way to see the student panel. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you all soon. We hope that you enjoyed UNT virtual preview. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Bye, Latrice. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.